This is module 4 of our lecture on benchmarking, and here we will be talking about cultural implications of benchmarking. We find that although benchmarking is a very powerful tool that can help us get ideas which can be useful in improving our competitiveness, however, a lot of people have reservations on benchmarking because it is in some quarters considered as part of cheating, because we are borrowing ideas from somewhere else, and generally we have been brought up on the concept that it is wrong to steal even ideas. Okay, so it's not stealing things, but even ideas, if we steal, it is not an appropriate thing. However, what we are talking about in benchmarking is not stealing ideas. Any invention, any innovation, any growth, any development that has taken place in human history has never taken place purely starting from scratch. Everybody has built upon ideas that somebody else created and then created something new out of that old idea. So there is nothing really wrong in taking ideas from someone else and improving upon them, adding your value. What is wrong is taking somebody's ideas and directly copying. I mean, it is like when you have an assignment or when you have an exam to take and you basically go and say, give me your answer, and I don't know how to do this, but I'm just going to write what you are writing, and that is copying and that is cheating. However, if you get a group of people, and I'm not suggesting that we are going to do this for this particular course, but if in a properly structured environment, you have a group of people working collaboratively, and then each one of them using the collaborative effort to come up with their own individual ideas and is able to answer questions individually, there is nothing wrong with that particular collaboration. What I have found interestingly is a lot of times when I've given an exam and there are people, I give the analogy of an examination simply because that is something that people can relate to in a educational environment very easily. But you have people who have identical words in the answers, and I say, how come you have identical words if you have not cheated? He said, well, we studied together. I said, studying together doesn't necessarily mean that you even use identical words. You cannot even think of different ways of putting the same thoughts together. That is not benchmarking, that is not learning. Learning means you try to understand the concepts and then express it in your own ways. Innovative adaptation of ideas has always been done in history, and that's the only way in which human progress has taken place. We need to get away from this concept that learning from others is cheating. Learning is learning, whether it is, we are always learning from everybody else. When I'm teaching a class, you're learning from me. When I attend somebody else's lecture, I'm learning from that person. So therefore, learning from others is not necessarily cheating. We need to make sure, however, that nothing illegal is done. That means we do not take patented ideas or proprietary information, which is obviously cheating. One of the best known examples of this was where the head of materials of General Motors, this happened around I think 1992 or 1993, I'm forgetting his name, but he moved from General Motors to Volkswagen, and what he did before he moved was he actually took with him all information with regard to the cost of the various parts. That was what the vendors of General Motors were offering to GM. Now that is illegal. because that is the information that belongs to GM, and it is not something that was for the head of materials of GM to take with him. And so we are not talking about actually breaking the law or doing something improper. So we want to make sure that when we talk about learning, when we talk about borrowing ideas, we are not talking about just taking something which has a legal implication and breaking the law. Okay. Overall, borrowing from others needs to be built into our system so that it facilitates our overall organizational learning. We need to learn how to learn, and a lot of organizations don't have this ability, and that is what is causing the organizations in a lot of cases to stagnate at a certain level. So what is it that companies can do and should do? Number one, they need to invest in employee education, and this brings outside ideas into the organization. This could be either as a result of outside trainers coming and offering seminars and training courses to the companies, or sending your people outside to seminars. Okay. You can also create lending libraries, and these would have information on competitors, and would have books, articles, magazines, and other information about high performance winning strategies and systems, so that again people are exposed to what is happening out there. When you have too much of an inside look, looking inwards, not inside but an inward focused organization, there is not much of innovation that results, and therefore you need to ensure that people are constantly exposed to the outside world. You also need to encourage visits to other facilities. If somebody wants to visit other plants, other organizations, other people, other seminars, learn from other companies, this ought to be encouraged by companies. Also, you should make best practice information sharing and innovative adaptation skill evaluated in performance review and promotion process. A lot of times we don't have this as a required skill. We look at other things such as leadership, such as maybe intelligence, or a certain skill in a particular area, but understanding how to make best practice information and adapting this to your own individual performance ought to be made as part of the normal evaluation process. How good is a person in doing this? And if you make this part of the normal performance review process, people will start to take this more seriously. Make benchmarking competitors and other excellent companies a responsibility clearly described in job descriptions. A lot of times we have job descriptions that make no mention of benchmarking as a requirement of that particular job, and especially when you talk about senior management, this ought to become a requirement of the jobs of senior managers. Engage high-level executives directly in benchmarking and innovative adaptation, because when the higher level executives and top management in an organization are involved, everybody listens. So people cannot ignore what people in the organization are talking about. Regularly identify, study, and celebrate internal successes with the goal of repeating and improving upon them. So when there are successes within your own organization, make sure that you make this well known, make sure that you publicize this within the organization. The idea being that people understand what else is going on within your own organization, so that you don't have this problem of reinventing the wheel. So that brings us to the end of this lecture, this module, as well as this lecture on benchmarking.